Welcome back to the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. Time once again for T Watts and TR on the YouTube home for BOL. Travis Reier, senior analyst for BamaOnLine.com, alongside site publisher Tim Watts. Tim, it is the first Thursday in June 2024. The news cycle does not sleep. Earlier in the week, just a couple days ago, we were talking about the commitment of Keelon Russell, quarterback from Duncanville, Texas, flipping from the SMU Mustangs to the Alabama Crimson Tide. And with that, Tim, not going to waste any time here. What's next? I mean, come on, keep this thing rolling, Tim.
No, I think this staff, I'm just talking overall. June's where it used to start get busy again for us. In the past, we had a slow March, we had a slow April, we had a slow May. June picked up, but to see June picking up and we never really had the break with news. I'm not talking about us. I mean, we're fine, we're grown men, but just the news break, between the extra 30-day portal window, Final Four run, the portal, the one that, everything, the coaching change, starting with Nick Saban retiring, it's been nonstop. And this Bama staff, I'll tell you, they're not really going to get outworked when it comes to recruiting. And that's sort of what was Saban's MO when he got here and when he was at LSU, just outwork everybody. And I'm not saying the other schools don't work hard; they obviously do. But Alabama, they get after it. I mean, they had multiple triple figure, kids coming through in the spring on top of spring practice, the official visitors. Last week alone, having multiple camps and 12 official visitors, doing the same, had visitors this weekend. And you look up on Tuesday, coming off a huge visitor weekend, a Monday camp Tuesday, you got Micah DeBose, one of the nation's top offensive linemen in Tuscaloosa, coming straight off an official visit from LSU. And you got Naheem Offord hanging out in Tuscaloosa on a Tuesday. So you doing all that to lead to your weekend, which is real big. Um, another expected double-digit official visitors on top of camps. I mean, these guys, they're burning the candle on both ends right now.
They absolutely are. And, when you think about it, you said it, it's just, it still feels a little bit bizarre because it is early June and we're talking about places with up to 20 official visitors for this upcoming weekend. It's something that I'm still trying to get my head wrapped around. I know that our staff with you and Joseph Hastings and Andrew Bone have already made that adaptation, and it shows on our website with all the great coverage, all the great information waiting for you right now at BamaOnline.com. So, we're going to jump around a little bit on the program. We tend to do that more on this show. We don't necessarily color inside the lines as much. So
We're old. We're old.
we are, and we
We're
kind of
just,
like what we like, and we go where we go, I guess, Tim.
I mean, we've earned that right. We've earned the right. We just kind of, we do have some very random, just the smallest thread. If we tug on it,
Yeah,
we'll
it could
be
be a rabbit hole.
well,
Yeah.
we are our own rabbit hole at times, but absolutely, let's bounce around. And thanks for everybody who's here already. The shout outs, we appreciate you guys that check in, guys and girls that check in the earliest. Um,
Absolutely.
that
Help
crowd
us
tends
get
to build.
cranked up.
Yeah, y'all are wait. You got everybody else waiting. Y'all got them. Y'all are there waiting on them when they arrive. So thank you.
Tim needs more than that cup of coffee, that
I do
iced
need the
coffee
coffee.
to kind of hot or cold to kind of get him going. But we'll bounce around a little bit between football and some hoops. We're going to talk about an undervalued opponent for the Alabama Crimson Tide in 2024. We'll talk about one that we think maybe is overvalued here in the month of June, looking ahead to the upcoming season. It is also offensive line week at BamaOnline.com. So you're going to want to check out all of that throughout the week. Charlie Potter spearheading that position group this week for us. And you know what else we'll talk about, Tim, is some CFP kickoff times. Wanted to get into some of that with you as well.
Sure.
Those have been made public here in the last day or so. I'm going to try to share those, as a matter of fact, here on another screen. Let's see. Let's do a little director work here. All right, there we go. There we go. Let's see if I've got that now. There you go, Tim. Your college football playoff 2024-2025 schedule. Talk about things you're still trying to get your head wrapped around a little bit. How about those first round games? Because those are going to be on campus Tim, and you look at it, going to get things going with a Friday night game on December the 20th, first round playoff game. You think about the potential for that to be at a cold weather site on a Friday night to get things going. Then Saturday, you're going to have a triple header from noon to pretty much midnight. Now, that's Eastern time, maybe a little bit
Good.
earlier Central time, but TNT jumping into this thing from a television perspective. Again, Saturday, December the 21st, noon, 4 and 8 p.m. Eastern. That's just that's a time of year where we've had football. That's usually when you have like the New Orleans Bowl, though, Tim, not first round playoff games.
Well, you don't have the New Orleans Bowl 3 times, in the same day. So that's going to be around the signing. When is the signing day? I haven't even looked
Moved
it
up,
up.
right? They moved it
I
up.
hope so. I hope
Yeah,
so because that
yeah.
date is right at the signing
That's why
window
they
last
moved
year.
up the signing date. It's going to be right after the conference championship games, I think, here moving forward. So, yeah, that's going to be
Yeah,
a
I
little
mean
different.
it seems pretty, jammed in there, to have so much. I wish Charles Barkley and them would do the TNT games. I would definitely leave the mute on if I could hear those guys announcing football games. But I mean, I'm for it. We love sports. That's a good one. The Friday night one's an odd one. Like you said, you get in the wrong city at the wrong time, the wrong place. I mean, that's an 8 o'clock game. That's going to end at midnight their time. So that's so hard for the reporters that have to cover those late games because that game ends at midnight. They're going to be there till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning writing, covering,
Hey,
and obviously a playoff. Not like writing until 3 in the morning about a
oh,
loss.
yeah,
About a loss. You know what I mean? About a
yeah,
loss.
I'm trying to
So
put those days behind me. But you're right. And what I also wonder too, Tim, I have to think, how is seeding going to work? Because is the committee going to take into account, look, we've got a Friday night game at 8 o'clock.
they have
And the
to.
way this thing is being seeded and how you're going to, position these games, I got to think you're going to be taking the weather and where you're playing on December the 20th at 8 o'clock and the next night for that matter into account because this isn't a dome situation here, right? I mean, when you think about college football teams, Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Michigan, Oregon, you know, USC's in a good weather spot. Hell, Tuscaloosa can be pretty cold on December the 20th.
Yeah, I will say they're probably happy the weather's kind of changed the schedule because when we were growing up, it's cold everywhere in January, right? In December,
Yeah.
Christmas was always cold. I mean, now it's 75 degrees. When I smoked my Christmas cigar after the kids have opened all their presents and we're kind of calmed down, but it used to be too cold for that. So, I mean, that at least helps them in that regard. They might say they're not going to factor that in, but they're not going to play in a Wisconsin blizzard at
Yeah.
8 o'clock Eastern
If you
time. I don't
notice,
think.
they're not committed to seeding here on the schedule. So they can play, games whenever they want, kind of on those 2 days there between Friday night and Saturday night, December 20th
Well,
and
that's you.
December the 21st.
I tell you that 31st game's kind of awkward. That kind of stands out to me more than anything. I mean, you got New Year's Eve, you got a 7:30 game. Again, that's Eastern time, but I mean that's gonna be close to a Happy New Year's kiss when that thing ends.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
that's an awkward time. I think they could have dropped that in at a little bit earlier. They had Wednesday they got a 5 p.m. game, right? So I think
Mhm.
they could have did that on Tuesday as
Rose Bowl's
well.
always going to be 5 p.m. Eastern on New Year's
Yeah.
Day. They're not coming off that. But you're talking about the quarterfinal games and Tuesday and Wednesday, December the 31st, January 1st. Now you get to that point, you're playing in really three domes in
Yeah.
Pasadena. So you've moved
You're
past
all
the
right.
weather scenarios for sure. You get into the playoff semifinals on Thursday, January the 9th and Friday. They're going to be standalone games in prime time once you get to the semifinals. It's not going to be a double header scenario. And then you're going to have a pretty big break between those semifinal games. If you play on January 9th and you make the national championship game, you're not playing again until January the 20th in Atlanta with a couple of games in this situation, the quarterfinals and also the national championship game for the ATL. And you know what else too, Tim? Boy, the NFL plays into this too. How they schedule and situate these games and on the days that they're playing. Now, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, it is what it is. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, but You see Sunday definitely reserved for the National Football League. And I think in some instances, as you get later in this situation, maybe you get into that wild card weekend NFL playoffs, they're going to keep these semifinals off of Saturday for sure, even as well.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's an extra month of football for those final two teams. I mean, I mean,
It's a
they're into
lot, dude.
January 20th. I mean, when that's 2 weeks into the school year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're going to be getting into the spring semester for sure. And
Good.
as Mask Up
It's a
Daytona
good
points out
point.
here in the comments,
It's a good point.
depth will definitely matter with all these extra games. No doubt
Yeah,
about it.
absolutely. It's a that's a great point.
And, you're still going to have the conference championship games. So it's not like they said, well, we're going to add to this playoff by a couple of rounds and we're going to remove the conference championship games. No. If you're a top two team in the Southeastern Conference, no divisions, remember, coming up this season, you're going to be going to Atlanta to play in that war before you go on to potentially a first round game. That's where the SEC championship game is really going to matter too, because you could go from sort of a quarterfinals seed to maybe having to play in that first round. So when people talk about motivation for the Southeastern Conference championship game, that's going to be a big part of it. You're going to want to try to stay out of that first round and be in that quarterfinal without having to play on campus.
Yeah, there's not really a chance to throw a game, right? To lay up. There's not a chance to, take one for the better good. I mean, they've set it up where everything matters. I
Yeah.
mean, it is. And I mean, and again, I mean, of course, I'm very SEC biased. I think it's the best football. Thought that well before Texas and Oklahoma jumped in, which made it even more elite. But all conference championships aren't equal. You know what I mean? They're not equal. It's not Bama played Georgia, Georgia played Bama, and Michigan played Iowa. Not against Iowa, who had a good defense, but a terrible offense. I mean, those are not the same equal caliber teams. And it'll rotate year to year. There'll be different teams, and the matchups will be better. But some years it's just going to be bad matchups and bad games. So you don't get a lot of break in the SEC. You won't get it in the regular season. You don't get it. I mean, if battle tested means anything, then the SEC teams will definitely, and other teams will too, but SEC will definitely be battle tested.
Let's bounce over to some hoops, so to speak, Tim. We've got a hoops facility upgrade on the table for Nate Oats, and that program kind of figured that was coming after Nate reaffirmed his commitment to Alabama for the foreseeable future, especially on the heels of Kentucky coming open when Cal moved on to Arkansas. And as we've heard from Greg Byrne here in recent days, Charlie Potter had this update for us there at BamaOnLine.com. And we've talked about it for a long time now. In the eyes of Nate Oats, priority for him on a daily basis, NIL, continue to build that, and facility quality. And that's what we've seen once again. Absolutely, I'm sure Nate Oats would love a new arena. But when it comes down to the day to day operations of his program and the ability to compete at the highest level, Tim, this is what we're seeing come to fruition. And I know the board of trustees are going to meet, I think, today and tomorrow. But I mean, this feels like a formality at this point.
Yeah, that's what we've been told. That's the thing with, I know the fans, and I get why they want a new stadium. It's always nice to have something new and shiny. But I think Nate Oates knows that he needs better players, not a new arena. He needs more money for his staff, not necessarily a new arena. And you need NIL for the better players. I think that's the priority. Now, the practice facility, I think he's extremely excited about, as he should be. But I think he's got things where he wants to go. I know he'd agree with you that he probably, getting a new arena would be nice. I think everybody agrees. But I think
Yeah.
this is not number one on his priority list and hasn't been. And I mean, who's to argue with Nate Oates right now? I mean, he's literally, we've talked about this before, but since that Final Four, since that North Carolina game, everything has just fallen into place. If you said, what's the ideal A plus 10 out of 10 scenario for Bama? If we'd have said that in March, it literally would have checked every box going down this list, I think.
And as we continue on with hoops, Tim, the news or potential news overnight, Woj bomb. You talk about waking up to a Woj
Yeah,
bomb,
that was a big
Tim.
one. That got me. Yeah. I was
How about
preparing for
Danny
this show.
Hurley?
I was
Danny
preparing for
Hurley.
this show. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was preparing when I saw it, and I didn't know who the report came from. I just saw reports, but obviously when I saw Woj did it, that's like the NBA's version of Fong. I perk up, pay attention. I mean, he's certainly exceptional. And the post under his original tweet, the tweets under are acting like this is pretty close to being done, and it makes sense. I don't know. I mean, I wonder. Like, I'm not sure Danny Hurley. I mean, Hurley can yell at LeBron James the way he yells at everybody else. This is always the how does it translate? Like Rick Pitino, like Nick Sabin. How does it translate from college to the professional ranks? But at the same time, LeBron James. First of all, you don't yell at LeBron James. That's kind of tongue in cheek. But I mean, I think at this stage he wants the best coach he can get, and I can't think of many coaches X and O's. What you see him get out of his players are better than Hurley.
Yeah, it's fascinating because there had been so much talk about JJ Redick being the guy. I think you saw some outlets pretty much go as far as to, you know, interpret that it was an impending situation for
I
Redick,
agree. I thought
his
that's why.
relationship with
Yeah.
LeBron, and those things.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, obviously, if you can get Dan Hurley, that's better than JJ Redick, simply because. And I like JJ Redick. His podcast, he was a good Pelican. He was a good basketball player. I think he says a lot of the things. I like his views on stuff. So I imagine. I mean, he went to Duke. He's a pretty high IQ guy, smart guy, knows the game. All the little things you like to hear. But again, you're unproven. We saw that with Steve Nash. I mean, if you haven't coached, it's a hell of a pond to be in when you're with the
I think
Lakers.
it's the personalities, that
Yeah.
are so difficult for these guys. When you go from a teammate to the head
Oh my
coach,
gosh, can you
it,
imagine?
you,
It's
you
very
might go into it
uncomfortable.
thinking, oh, it's going to be pretty much similar to what it was when I played.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, the
That's my
barriers
buddy.
go up, the
Yeah.
communication. If you're not strong with that, it breaks down quickly. And if you don't have the guy or the guys on that roster fully in your corner, it's kind of predictable. And you saw that. Nash is a great example.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he's
from
a
the
he's a
time he was hired,
basketball.
yeah,
Yeah, he's a basketball mind, but everything's not going to merge together. Now the thing about it is Dan Hurley's going to get his. You're not really going to walk on Dan Hurley. I don't think LeBron or anybody else. I think he's just, I think he's that guy that was smart enough to the third grade teacher. You know what I mean? You're not my dad already. Um, he's a boss, but I do think LeBron James at the end of his career wants to win more than anything now. I can't
yeah,
imagine there's anything more important. Now, I do think the Lakers, and we won't go much further into this, have kind of been stymied because LeBron's made a lot of decisions.
yeah,
He's made a lot of decisions on personnel. Once referred to himself as the coach, basically.
yeah.
But I think that comes to an end. And it's similar. You can think about Nick Saban coming in and dealing with the people that were close to the Alabama program that had so much say so, right? He came in and kind of nipped all that in the bud and said, "Hey, we're separating everything and go from here." But it's good to see how that does. And I mean, you sort of tie Nate Oats to Dan Hurley, obviously, as far as their career trajectory, and where Nate Oats could, if he left Alabama, where he could be. I think most people think he would end up in the NBA.
I thought the Kentucky situation pretty much reaffirmed that for us, right? If he isn't
Yeah,
leaving for Kentucky, it's probably going to have to be a job in the NBA. And this situation with Hurley kind of reminds me of Jay Wright a couple years ago, former Villanova coach. Remember, wins a
mhm,
couple national championships, the NBA, the Knicks, the Sixers, whoever, kind of like Cal years ago. Um, but it does beg the question because you saw Jim Harbaugh win a national championship at Michigan. Now he kind of had the posse on the way.
yeah,
He had some
yeah, a
other
few
things in
times.
play that I don't
Yeah, a
think
few times.
Danny has as much. But it is worth noting a couple of college coaches at elite programs, national championship programs, have moved on to the NFL and the NBA respectively. Feels a little bit like because of the current state of college athletics, it's not unreasonable to assume, at least to some point, that it's played maybe a role in this. Now, when you're talking about the Lakers, you're talking about a destination job. Chargers, I don't know so much. And again, I guess the reasons aren't exactly apples for apples, but again, another situation where you're seeing some college guys look to make that move.
I wonder and this is my last point on this. We'll be on it all day, but I wonder if it's as done as we think it's done. I mean, Dan Hurley, what was the knock on Dan Hurley leaving Connecticut? His wife loved Connecticut, right? Lakers are the Lakers. They're the Lakers. LeBron James is a year or two from retiring.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis is about to be free agent. That roster isn't what it is. They've lost a lot of their picks in trades. So, I mean, you get past the LeBron. If LeBron's not on that roster, AD's still a great player, first team, Hall of Famer. But I'm wondering if he's looking at that. But again, like you said, it's the Lakers, But again, we did say it's
LA is a
Kentucky.
little
We said it's
different than
Kentucky.
LA's a little
Yeah,
different than Lexington. Trying to get
yeah,
mama to go to LA may
yeah.
not be as hard as
I mean,
taking
that
her down to
official
Lexington.
visit with Jenny Bus is going to be off the chain. Like when they go shopping on the official visit,
Yeah.
it's going to be, a different world. All right,
Yeah,
let's get
absolutely. Let's keep it moving as we shift some gears back to football. And Tim, wanted to ask you, when you look at this Alabama football schedule for the 2024 campaign, let's start with an undervalued team,
undervalued.
undervalued opponent, maybe from your viewpoint. When you think about how this schedule is going to lay out, who would be that team for you that maybe people aren't talking about enough?
I'll go with Missouri. They were always like a sneak. Alabama went up there a few years ago with more than a few years with TJ Yeldon. That was sort of a game I'd circled as one to watch. Now they played really well and, as a powerful team. I think Missouri's sneaky good. I mean, you saw what they did to Tennessee last year, dismantled them. And they've been heavy in the NIL. They've got some players coming in. They beat guys out. And also, I think when you look at the schedule, I don't think that's one the other guys can get up for as much as that. Also, it's sandwiched between Tennessee at Knoxville and then at Baton Rouge. So, I mean, it's kind of a where do we focus? I think Missouri's a good team. I still think Alabama will win. I'm glad that game's at home though, because you go to Tennessee, you're a little banged up. You come home with Missouri, you got Baton Rouge on your mind the next week. We're anticipating Tennessee being a top 20, top 15 team. LSU's a top 10 team, somewhere in that range. So it's not that's to me, it's a sandwich game against a quality opponent.
Yeah, it's tough too because to me there isn't that fine of a line between maybe a team like Tennessee being undervalued or being valued just right. I think in most eyes right now, when you look at Alabama's schedule, I think most people understand that trip to Knoxville is going to be challenging. Um,
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
so I don't think that I can really go with Tennessee as undervalued. So I'm probably going to go Wisconsin in week 3. I would really feel that way more so if that was week 2 after Western Kentucky, but you're going to have 2 games to kind of get it together before you go on the road to Madison. And when I look at Wisconsin, typically they're not built in a way that's going to beat an Alabama. Could be challenging. Again, first true road game of the Kalen DeBoer era. Luke Fickell, a very good coach. Tyler Van Dyke coming in at the quarterback position from Miami. I'll go with the Badgers. I don't feel probably great about it. So let's talk about overvalued. When you look at maybe opponents on the schedule that are being anticipated more than some others, who would be that team for you, Tim?
I'll probably get in some hot water, but for me, it'd be Auburn. I just think that Alabama and Tuscaloosa is a different game. If that game was in Auburn, last year I discussed that game worried me probably the most out of all of them because Jordan Hare, the fans are unbelievable. They play it's a different game of football down there, but I think I've seen a lot of discussion because it is Alabama Auburn. So obviously it's still important, but I think in Tuscaloosa it's just a different game. I think that'll be the tail end of the season. There'll still be some hype about it, but I mean, when you got a schedule and you're looking at everybody you're playing, Georgia, Wisconsin, all the way down to Oklahoma for the second to last game. I think this year Auburn won't be nearly as big as it has been, or nearly as big as it was last year, I should say. Last year, I thought it was a huge game. Didn't expect it to be exactly what it turned out. I did not expect the 4th and 31 or even a late field goal. I just thought it'd be a close game. But I think Auburn would be the probably over anticipated game based on everything else on the schedule.
Yeah, traditionally it makes a sense, but as you said, history, it makes sense. But as history has shown us, games in Tuscaloosa between the Tigers and the Crimson Tide of late haven't been especially close. Alabama is really taking care of business in the Iron Bowl at Bryant Denny Stadium. I'm going to go with the team you undervalued because I think there's a lot of people thinking Missouri could be a college football playoff participant with the 12-team field. Now, I think a lot of that has to do, it's a pretty favorable schedule for Eli Drinkwitz and his team. I think for Alabama, where it falls on the schedule, you'll have had the bye week before Georgia, then you'll have Vanderbilt, you'll have South Carolina. I envision this team ramping up into mid-October, sometime in that area. And so I think Missouri is being talked about in terms of a top 10 type of team. When I hear that about a team like Missouri, I start getting the Ole Miss feels. It seems like anytime we hear Ole Miss, watch out. And it's going to happen this year too, with Ole Miss, because Alabama doesn't see the Rebels in large part. But I'm going to go Missouri there, with our
Sure.
picks for undervalued and overvalued. You know what else it is at BamaOnLine.com this week? We talked about it earlier. It is OL week, our positional preview. Charlie Potter spearheading that for us. It's been tight ends here in the last week. Going to kind of go with the extension of that, or vice versa. And OL, and so much talk, Tim. Caden Proctor back in the fold at that one tackle spot. Boy, you look at Jaden Roberts, you look at Tyler Booker at the guard positions. It's hard not to really like those three pieces, but you still are working to figure out right tackle. I think it's going to be Wilkin Formby, by the way. That's just me, and that's an early call on it, and understanding there's going to be plenty of competition. Right now, I'm feeling Wilkin Formby at right tackle, and you're hoping that Parker Brailsford, the transfer from Washington, is good to go, ready to go. I like what Alabama did late in the transfer portal, though. Get a little insurance there with some experience, Tim, at those interior offensive line spots. So, what are you anticipating right there in that area as we move through the summer months?
Yeah, we talked about the interior being unbelievable. The thing about Wilkin, and I kind of like you, I kind of feel like there's a hunch factor because he's an offensive tackle, and he was instrumental in recruiting Caden Proctor back, who's an offensive tackle. You got to have some confidence, right? You know what I'm saying? You got to have it's like asking Brad
I
Pitt
got
to be
my
the
spot. Yeah.
that's like asking Brad Pitt to hang out with you and your girl, and go to the movies and all one night and not be scared to lose. You got to have some confidence. So he knew he was coming in probably to start. I think there's some confidence. I do think Pritchard's going to battle him there. But I think Formby has taken some steps. We've heard good things. And I still think you're probably right on the August is going to decide a lot of this. What we see there is going to decide a lot. What's being done right now is going to decide a lot of it. And also, you not only is it, we're talking about the team, but it's a big visitor weekend for offensive lineman in Alabama. Like I said earlier, Micah DeBose was in for an unofficial visit on Tuesday. And also official visitor, Michael Carroll's coming in, Pennsylvania guy. Alabama's been on a pretty hot and heavy. Also Douglas Utu from Bishop Gorman and Mal Waldrop from Central Phoenix. So some guys are coming in, and I think that I know a lot of people have kind of, including me, we've been waiting for those offensive linemen to drop, but they're at the point now where they should be getting close because the visits are up, and these kids will be making decisions because a lot of them are taking these summer official visits.
They absolutely are. We got a question from our guy Ben here, who asked him, "Hey BOL staff, I'm a paid subscription member for On3. How do I become a participant for the BOL message board, the roundtable?"
Ben, send me a DM, a PM, a private message. All you got to do is click on my name, a post on the message board, and I'll walk you through that.
There you go.
That
Simple as
just
that,
means
Ben.
that just means he has to choose he's signed got a subscription to On3. There's no message board, so he needs to
Right.
be so whichever team you want to
Specific.
be. So you
Yeah.
want to be signed on to BamaOnLine, and that's how you get access. I'll take care of you.
How about that? Customer service with a smile. My pleasure, Tim Watts said, almost like Chick-fil-A right
I'm
here.
never saying that.
Oh, one thing you will say is let's head to the roundtable mailbag.
Let's
We
do it.
always like to do that. So we're going to do that right now, Tim. We're going to get you going in the mailbag, and we'll get things started with Bama Fan 32 in here, who says, mock class, please. He just wants the entire 2025 class laid out for him. But in all seriousness, he continues, would love to hear about DL recruiting. Who are some of the guys Alabama is looking good for?
Yeah, obviously you got Antonio Coleman committed on the defensive line. Now he's a little, I don't think that one's even close to done. Committed to Bama, flipped to Auburn, flipped to Bama. taking an official visit to Auburn this weekend. He'll be back to Bama in the future. But I do think that Josiah Sharman, it's been a little quiet. I think they did a really good job there. We've seen his recruitment pick up. Charles House, who was on a visit, Alabama's definitely jumped up there. He's a rising 4-star from Charlotte. Lendon Simmons is a guy to watch, maybe. He's a guy that's worked out at Alabama, did a good job. So the thing about the defensive line for Alabama this year is Freddie Roach has did an unbelievable job of stacking that room. They didn't look like they're going to take a lot of guys. They've got a lot coming back. I mean, they did, last year lost a few, but when you looked up at everything they did, so it's expected to be a pretty small defensive line class. I mean, that could always change. You're not turning down big-time defensive linemen, but we do think that's going to be a smaller group.
There you go. Straight from the man himself. Some talk about the Alabama defensive line on the recruiting front for the 2025 cycle. Tide Hashira here in the roundtable mailbag wants to know favorite part of your Spain trip, Tim. What are Spanish cargo shorts like? I like that. Yeah.
It was all good. I mean, it was no problems with anything. The people in Spain are fantastic. They're just beyond accommodating. I don't know any Spanish. That's not surprising that anybody knows me. I'm like Brad Pitt in that movie Inglourious Basterds when he said "Arrivederci." That's me trying to speak any foreign language. But they were fantastic. The food was good. Seville was unbelievable. Barcelona. I mean, everything there is good. I've heard these rumors because we we travel so much, and we're in the state of Alabama. So anytime I leave the state, they tell me I'm going to get killed. My mom thinks everywhere's down. Like she doesn't know we're 20 minutes from Birmingham, which is always in the murder capital per capita of the United States. So, but I did see pickpockets. I did see people get their pocket picked. I saw one guy. We just walked into Barcelona. Guy comes running through a square screaming robber in Spanish. All these security guards come from different stores. Just white T-shirt says security in black. They caught him. I didn't see him, but I heard old boys like, they had kicked him around pretty good. But it was fantastic. Cargo shorts, you gotta molest me to get my wallet. You gotta send a 2-year-old toddler to get my wallet.
Yeah, Mask Up Daytona says kidnapping Tim would be tragic.
Mask Up, if that happens, Mask Up, I expect you to be Liam Neeson in Taken.
Yes.
I expect you to track me down with your skills and save me.
What's the best thing you ate over there, Tim? Best thing you had to eat?
We went to a sushi place on the island of Majorca, and it was
okay. Yeah,
it was an island, and
that's what I mean. When you said that, I went,
we
weren't talking about Barcelona.
We weren't walking around Madrid, landlocked. This place was fantastic. We had paella, which is really good. We had one with
traditional
duck.
As it gets.
It's very tapas. I've kind of liked the variety. They had everything. Barcelona to me was a lot like New York, in the fact you can get a great $5 piece of pizza. You can eat paella. You can eat a steak. We kind of just mixed it up with what we did. I mean, it was really good.
Yeah, sounds tremendous.
Italy was better.
It's on the list. Spain and Portugal. Because I got to go to Nazaré and see those waves, Tim, that we talked about.
Dude,
I got to go see those waves in Nazaré.
You jump out there if you want to.
I said I need to see them.
I'll be Keanu
from
Reeves.
Up on the cliffs.
You'll be Patrick Swayze. Go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, that'll be it too. That'll be that roll credits.
Guys, we need a new host. No way he's coming back.
Oh, I think people are lining up already. I didn't get to go to Spain, but I did go down to Orlando and saw the Rolling Stones with Tyler Childers. Really like Tyler. He opened up for the Stones. None of the Stones were in cargo shorts. That's all I know to tell you. And I didn't get to go to Spain, but we did make a stop by St. Augustine. Yeah. I mean, it is the ancient city. I guess there's some Spanish vibes there.
Is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And in between all that, of course, I stopped at a Panera off 95 to do a Keelon Russell show.
That's pretty good. That happened pretty, we should have touched on that earlier.
I got to give the wife Heather credit because she was kind of the navigator and she was like, Panera up here. She knows the deal after 20 years, Tim. I know your Heather does too.
She does. Like, I can do the eyes. Like she'll walk in and I cut the eyes and she's like, oh, she knows. I don't even have to do like hold up or nothing. I'm just like,
No, no.
I just like, she's like, okay, he's busy.
She's like, Panera up here, next exit. I said,
Well,
well,
Russell was such a
guess that's
big
it.
one. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
it
Because
was absolutely.
the
Yeah,
quarterback, and
for
tell you
sure.
what, again, Nick Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer, the staff did a great job. That happened so quick when they found their guy, and it took a minute to weed through everything. They really got it done quick. So nice job there.
For how that ended up, and just kind of looking back at where I'm sure you thought this was at this position, maybe even in January. Um, is there surprise that with like Juju and maybe some other guys that this is where Alabama ultimately landed, or is it an example of you just got to go through the process? It's not just about production and rankings and those type of things.
Yeah.
Uh, Boy, there is a vetting process, especially at quarterback, that these coaches want to go through to make sure they're getting the right guy, not just the right talent, I guess.
Yeah, there's got to be the right makeup for quarterback, and I know that's important for everybody, but you got to have a guy that fits in that locker room. And look, it's going to be hard. Quarterbacks are getting huge NIL deals. I mean, they're coming in richer than the offensive coordinator in some situations, I think. So those guys you got to worry about rubbing the wrong way. I do think everything about Keelon Russell that the Alabama staff like is he's got upside. I was told he was at 6'4", which means he's grown a little bit on his visit to Alabama, up from 6'3" and 1/8. I think Charles Power said we had him at. Um, so he's grown a little bit. He's extremely long. He's got a big upside, and they're not expecting him to have to come in and start right away. Also, he loves football. He's at a football school, and all that stuff factors in because you do have to factor in everything. With like Juju, we knew NIL, and I'm not judging. I want to be clear. I'm going to say this every time.
Yeah.
I'm not judging if they want NIL. If they can get it, get it. If you can get it, get it. But I do think you have to factor that into your evaluation. You got to because you're doing a payroll now with the NIL. You've got X amount of dollars. If you spend Y on one player, I mean, you saw that with the Chiefs. They're still winning because they're a fantastic franchise. But you pay so much money to one guy, you'd kind of take a hit. I mean, you couldn't afford Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, you
So
have one guy wanting all of your collective money as it sits. That's kind of tough to build around a
there's
quarterback
just
who
so much.
may or may not be a day one starter either. Like when you spend money on a quarterback in the
Yeah,
NFL, you pretty much got your day one starter.
sure.
You're still developing guys at least a little bit
Yeah,
at that position.
like
And
Tennessee with
and you're going
Nico.
into a league like the SEC or the Big 10 now with Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC and with the way the Big 10 is expanded. You know, it's
Yeah.
not the shallow end of the pool.
Yeah, we saw that with Nico in Tennessee last year. Definitely number one
Hmm.
player. I thought he was the number one player in the class. Fantastic prospect. They had some guys with more experience ahead of him, Milton, and he's got a healthy NIL. No one's been shy about his NIL, and he's a backup role, kind of like Tua was to Jalen most of the season. Maybe not even that much because Bama had some a lot of blowouts in that year where Tua could get in earlier in the second half. So he kind of sat there. He made a hefty amount of money to get ready to play. And all that has to and I'm not judging anybody, but you have a lot more boxes to check with a quarterback than you do, say, a linebacker.
I do like
Linebacker doesn't have to be social and all that. He actually should probably be a little bit nasty. Quarterback's got to like keep that huddle in that room together.
You want to check a box for us, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel here for BOL, we would certainly appreciate that. Hit a like for us, the little thumbs up there. If you could hit that, that helps us out tremendously as well. Wow. I guess I did that without really trying to do it, but that was cool. And then also turn on those notifications. That way you get all of our YouTube content as it drops right here on the YouTube home for BamaOnLine.com. What about Z Franks 94 here in the show chat asking any chance Alabama goes after a second quarterback, Tim?
I think that's to be determined. I don't think it's completely off the table. I mean, something's going to happen in August where somebody becomes the backup to Jalen Milroe, right? You have three guys roughly the same. You have Austin, you have Ty, and you have Dylan, roughly the same. Same situation. They might be thinking maybe I'm transferring, and I'm speculating completely, but they might be thinking I'm transferring. So you might know you need another one. It just depends. These guys might be locked in for the long haul. But I think anytime you can get a quarterback of talent and it doesn't rock the boat, I think you get him. I think you bring him in. You want that quarterback battle to be like, the gladiator fights. You want them to be the toughest, hardest, pressure filled battle every year.
Yeah, with the way the game is being played right now, you have to have a contingency plan, whether that's through a second quarterback in the 2025 uh, high school hall or the transfer portal. I mean, you have to have a contingency plan for every position, but certainly quarterback right there at the top of that list. So let's continue on here in the BOL roundtable mailbag. Slip and Jimmy checking in. Who is each of y'all's best example of looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane
Mhm.
at Alabama that you can remember? Wow, Tim, you got one of those guys?
I do. I'm drawing complete blanks. We used to talk about him all the time. It's been a while.
You remember the running back at Alabama, Brian Steger?
Yeah, it's old
That
school. Yeah.
dude was a monster.
Yeah.
That was kind of more the Stallings era. And he played a lot at the running back position. He's one of those kind of guys that you looked at and thought, wow, this guy's going to win a couple Heisman's. He played, um, but not to that extent. Um, and I don't like that sort of descriptive because it sort of chips at the it makes the statement about the character maybe of a player like Ben Davis.
Yeah.
Ben
Well, he
Davis
was
here
so
recently,
so injured. Yeah.
and he just looked like that dude too. And for
Yeah.
whatever reason, you mentioned injury too. It didn't happen. That's the way I like to look at it more than anything is
Yeah.
guys that really looked and came to Alabama as examples of pretty much guys that would contribute early and often. It just never happened for whatever reason. Not because maybe
Yeah.
they didn't have the toughness or anything like that. Just didn't work out. LaMichael Fanning, was one of those kind of guys, right?
I tell you one I had hopes on jumps to mind was Adonis Thomas, if you remember him.
Hmm.
He looked like $1 million.
With a
Ended up
name
in a,
like that, you better. I
a
mean,
transfer, and I think that's part of it. He looked like $1 million, transferred to FSU. And that was kind of the knock when he went to Alabama. The high school coach said, "Can he adjust to how Alabama does stuff? If he does, he'll be an All-American." And ended up transferring to FSU. I think he had a fine career, but he was a guy that I thought had really good upside, just didn't really work out. But I agree with you. I think that you kind of are what you are. You know what I mean? You kind of are what you are. Not everybody's going to go in there and drink their sweat. Some of them are just going to drink not stick their helmet in the chest either.
yeah, not put their face in the proverbial fan
Yeah,
all the time.
Blackshire would kill you though. That was the difference with
Yeah, I see. I
Blackshire.
wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. That's what I'm talking about. I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't
walk up
say
to.
it to Blackshire.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't go up to Kendrick
He's
Blackshire and go, "Wow, you look like Tarzan, but you play like Jane.
no, that's a good way to be
Pick your teeth up."
I see
Yeah.
what you're saying. He looked
Oh
like a
yeah.
physical
Incredible.
specimen. He's a workout guy. Jarrell Harris is a guy too. He was a guy that was he had a good, good solid career. Uh,
Blake
Blake,
Barnett.
he did not look like Tarzan
That's what I'm
WBO.
saying.
Kind of look, yeah.
He,
Blake, I
Blake
think it's a
Blake
joke.
wasn't a
There's a joke on the message board that said this
specimen.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blake's not one. But I
That's
mean, Jarrell
that's
was a
back to
guy
the
I
night
actually
before.
think he got kind of stiff because he got so big. He was a monster ripped. He was a monster. I remember he left his official visit for Alabama. He was Drake Kirkpatrick's teammate a year ahead of him. And I asked him for an update from his official visit. He said, let me get done working out. He had left his official visit, slept on the way home, and then went and worked out. But pretty solid career. A little bit, a lot of this just comes down to genetics. You know what I mean? It's
Uh-huh.
just it's just genetics. And also the one thing about college that's interesting is the kids, and I'm not going to say who, but early in my career, one of the kids' dad told me his son said he wants to write. He's a sophomore. He wants to write poetry and walk on the beach.
Yeah, well.
And because he was considering quitting the team, he did get his degree. He never was really a great football player, but he did get his degree. But the dad was, and I was laughing, and I was a young dad at the time, and I was laughing because he said that doesn't pay. That doesn't. You don't get paid for walking on the beach nor writing poetry. So some kids just don't love it as much.
Yeah. Robert Foster here. I think Mask Up Daytona is having some fun at this point because Robert Foster, by the end of his career, significant contributor at the wide receiver
He could fly
position.
now. Yeah.
He
He could
could, and
walk
that
and move
that
it.
was the same year that you brought in Ruggs, Judy, and Devontae. That was the year Foster and Ridley were your top two guys, and then of course in the national championship game, that's when you saw Judy and you saw Henry Ruggs and some of those guys really take a step forward there at the wide receiver position.
He was in the NFL for
Yeah, with the
hand
Bills and
handful
yeah.
of Bills is one I remember the most, but he was on a handful of teams. I think in the end he was more on um practice squads, but I remember him with the Bills showing some
Mhm.
promise early on.
Bama 116 in the roundtable mailbag. What is your favorite Sabin press conference rant? Tim, do you have one of those?
I don't know.
I
They
thought the
they
funniest might be, and it was so just off topic, and it kind of just opened a press conference one time, and I don't think he was upset about it. He was kind of amused when he talked about the holes in the genes and stuff like that of
yeah.
today's kids or people. He that was a very interesting one that he kind of opened a press conference with.
He
I
did
mean,
it so
there'll
much.
always be rat poison post
Yeah.
game at Texas A&M in like 2016. That one will always be up there.
He did so many. He never like had that epic Mike Gundy moment, right?
I'm a man. I'm
I'm a
40.
man. I'm 40.
Yeah,
He had a consistent. It was like me. I would, as a father, I'd call the kids in the living room,
that's a good one,
and
Jeff. Yeah,
yeah, that is a good one. I'd call the kids in the living room and say, "What do y'all plan to do this weekend?" Well, I already know I'm about to light them up. So it doesn't matter what they say. If they say we're going out to save nuns or help nuns shop or, help the little kids across the street, I'm yelling. I think Sabin walked into those press conferences ready to yell about something pretty consistently. I always thought it was good. He never really got to the playoffs
no,
like Jim, what's his name
Jim
did, or
Mora. Yeah,
yeah, Jim Moore never, we are who they thought they were. He never had that, but he had
yeah,
some good ones and he
that's
was very
good.
consistent with it. So would
He
be,
was, and the tin horn one
that was,
obviously goes
that's
down.
a
But what the
legendary
best
one.
thing to me about the tin horn one was it wasn't like post game. It wasn't right after Georgia Southern ran for 300 yards. It was like a year or two later. But he had that in his back pocket because that November game annually against that FCS opponent, if there was any type of potential for the narrative to be what it was anyway, in most instances, Alabama's going to blow out Western Carolina or whoever it is, he would still fight that, man. He would battle that mindset tooth and nail. And I mean, that's
Yeah.
in large part why he was the coach that he was.
Yeah.
Jeff Hughes, he also liked y'all had us dead and gone. Yeah, that's another one. As
Yeah.
Tim said, there were quite a few to choose from. I'll say this, boy, the news networks hate Nick Saban being retired because they were able to take those clips every year, every couple weeks, Tim, and they had
Mhm.
their bite because Saban would go off on something or go on a
Yeah,
rant.
he would.
And Kalen DeBoer ain't that guy, man. Kalen DeBoer isn't that dude.
He's not now, but give Caleb Board 10 years
Yeah,
of
we'll
answering
see.
Alabama questions. He might come in there and kick that Coke ball across the room. I mean, Kalen DeBoer's coming from a pretty relaxed,
Yeah.
low key. You answer these Alabama questions after a loss off and on for 10 years, you might come in there wanting to headlock some Charlie Potter too.
Uh-huh.
Just give him some
Okay.
time.
Nah, in the roundtable mailbag here. Getting back into some recruiting stuff. And by the way, we'll have our recruiting show tomorrow here on the YouTube
Absolutely.
home for BamaOnLine.com. So you want to go ahead and put that on the
We'll answer a
calendar.
few questions. We'll answer a few questions on that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Given comments, nah ass, from Travis Smith and Q Porter not visiting until fall, it feels like the staff has largely put their eggs into Cunningham and Meadows baskets for the 1 to 2 remaining wide receiver scholarships. Is that a reasonable read on the situation? And what is your confidence level, Tim, on those guys?
I don't think they're going to put their eggs in one basket. I don't think that's the nature of things. I mean, they obviously got Ladzier Brooks, who they really like. The thing about Shep, and I was told this early on, and it's proven to be true, is that like there's a lot of boxes to check for him with a wide receiver. He's not rushing out. He's not watching a highlight tape and rushing out. I was told he watched 100, 200 pretty quick upon his arrival. He's very thorough. And I'd been told a lot of this to start before he got here when he was named Alabama wide receiver coach, and then he's proven that he's evaluating so deep. So he might just be a little bit slower as far as offers. He might want to do a little bit more research. So I don't think it's down to anybody. I think they're in pretty solid shape with Derek Meadow. And the one thing that we have to there was the wide receiver and defensive line was not expected to be big groups. I mean, we saw with Holman Wiggins 4 guys almost every year. It felt like this group was possibly going to be 2, maybe 3 for what they were looking for. Because don't forget, there's the portal to factor in, which we're really still adjusting to factoring in. We can't get the right prep guy. We'll go get the right portal guy. That still factors in. And that next portal window will be the bigger one where there is a lot of activity versus this last one, which moved a little bit slower. So I think Shep's just going to move. I mean, you saw like Zaire Brooks. I mean, there was a lot of research, boom out of the gate. Anybody seen him loves him. I mean, he's a fast riser in this class. I think that he's got, potential to be considered in the top, 25, 30 players in the country when all's said and done. Still has a whole senior year. So I don't think all the eggs are in one basket. I just think they're extremely particular. Meadows, I think they've done a good job there. Caleb Cunningham's hard to read because, I think he likes his visits when he goes to a school. They come out the leader. I mean, I think he said Auburn was the leader after his visit. I would guess there's still a long way to go in his recruitment.
Nah also asked, how much does the staff love Townsend and how soon will he commit after the OV?
The tight end position's one we're still trying to figure out. I love Townsend. I think he's not the biggest kid. I think that factors in. He's not some huge tight end, but boy, he's athletic. I mean, he can play on either side of the ball. He's a Texas guy. I know he likes Alabama. Olish took an official visit to Alabama last week. So he's on the table, and I think they're still working through that. But I will say tight end, I feel comfortable saying there will be tight ends in the portal because it's hard to keep a tight end happy. It's hard to keep if you've got a good one, Brock Bowers or somebody, you hammer him, right? So there's guys behind him, where they're either willing to wait or they're willing, they're leaving. And other schools do that. And then there's guys that just aren't in a great system for them. And I do think Alabama's offense under Kalen DeBoer is going to be tight end friendly. I think it's going to attract tight ends. So they could go either route there to get what they need.
The hit 86 here in the roundtable mailbag keeps it simple. Naeem offered the elite in-state cornerback currently committed to Ohio State. Seems like offered has been around Tuscaloosa a little bit here lately, Tim. So the hit wants to know exactly what's going on there.
We expect him back for an official visit this weekend. We had a little nugget Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was yesterday. We had a nugget that he was on campus Tuesday. Actually, that came out from a photo on Facebook where it leaked out that he was hanging out with Ryan Williams, Mbakwe. And I'll tell you, Ryan gets all the love, and he should. He's a great recruiter. He's got that personality. Some kids just shine. Some people just shine a little brighter. Ryan's one of them. But don't sleep on Jalen Mbakwe. I mean, don't forget, Jalen was the one locking Ryan down. So Ryan, Jalen's very good at that recruiting. Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., they were all hanging out in a photo. And then we reported he's coming back for an official visit this week and are expected to come back. So I think there's still some recruiting to do there. Offered, obviously committed to Ohio State. It's a good program, expected to be preseason 1 or 2. Number 1 in the recruiting rankings. They're active in the NIL. They're doing a good job. They're all in. Michigan really pissed off Ohio State. I mean, that's you lose your team a couple years in a row. You see your biggest rival go 14-0, win a national championship. They even spied and didn't get in trouble. So I'm pretty sure Ohio State's the one that told on them. But Ohio State is absolutely livid, and they're doing a good job there. So you got to fight Offord. You got to fight Ohio State for Offord. But he's open enough that, we've said the door's never been shut. This is a new staff. This is a new staff. This is a new year that's making up ground. Mo Lindquist, filling in, taking over for Travaris Robinson. So, he's building that relationship. So I think Alabama's in it. Obviously, they're taking an official visit. He still got an official visit to Ohio State. He took an official visit to Auburn. But if you're getting a guy on campus on a Tuesday, I think that's significant. Tuesdays, that Tuesday doesn't even have a nickname. Tuesday's just a day after
Tuesday's
Monday.
Nickname is at least it's not Monday.
Yeah, it's the day
Tuesday.
before Hump Day. Tuesday's there's Tuesday's like the like the third child. Nobody cares. So you got him coming in, hanging out, and again, you got the Alabama staff who does a good job, and then you got Ryan Williams. Probably known him for a while. No doubt, Mbakwe knew him, being from pretty close proximity. So got a shot there. Fighter's chance, puncher's chance. But again, Ohio State will be tough to beat. But you get him on campus. That's a start. Second time he's been here this year for an unofficial visit. Official visit would be the third time. So maybe try to get him in for a game and just go from there.
Got to be in it to win it. Looks like
You do. It's
Alabama's
like the
at
lotto.
least in it. That's right. Rolling Tide 32 here in the mailbag. Over under of 2.5 for more commitments before the end of June. 2.5
See, they
more
cheat. They cheat.
commitments.
They cheat. The
They cheat.
BOL posters cheat. This question was 3.5 over and under. So
Okay.
you got one with Russell. Now they just changed the odds.
Yeah, they
slightly.
moved the goalposts.
It's
Yeah.
the same question. I mean, I got to admire it. The hustle. The hustle's a plus. I'll go with. I previously said under. I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over. Over.
Yeah, I think Andrew Bone's big on that over.
Andrew Bone.
Yeah.
I don't even know that guy.
Andy Bone. Hey,
20 by July.
He said 20
1st?
by August 15th.
Oh, August 1st.
He said over 20 is what I heard.
Over 20.
Might have to go back. Might have to go to the tape.
We got to pull the tape up. I want to pin him down because he's going to wiggle.
Well, you went out of town.
He's going to wiggle. I went out of town.
You left the fort.
Andrew filled the whole class before practice starts.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just wants to enjoy the season, have them all done.
Yeah, that's right. Bama Breeze here in the roundtable mailbag. We're into the over-under segment of the mailbag.
You started this crap. You started it. You're the first one.
I do love them.
You love it
over-under. Well, absolutely. I mean, come on. You got to get through the offseason. Over-under how many seasons it takes before Coach DeBoer wins a natty. Bama Breeze says he's setting it at 2.5, and he's taking the under, Tim. Under 2.5 seasons to win a national title with Kalen DeBoer at the helm.
Man, that's so hard.
I think if it's under, it might be this year that Alabama wins it.
I would think his
with
chances
this team
were greater.
If they don't, I would probably go over. If whatever.
I think the chances would be better in a normal season before this expanded playoffs for him to win a championship, honestly. And I'll say that for every school. I feel the exact same way for Georgia and Ohio State and all of them. I think your chances decrease when you got to win, 3 more games?
It's going to be hard. Yeah.
You got to win 3 more games.
You got a better chance of making the playoff because it's 12 teams, but then you got to beat more teams to win it,
I think Alabama's a top Final Four team this year with the schedule, with the SEC championship, with all of it. I think they're a Final Four team this year. So
yeah,
I think
do too.
Shot. But I agree with you. If it's not this year, I mean, you probably change possibility of changing quarterbacks.
It'll be year 3 or 4.
Bill Rowe could be going pro. You're trying to get your whole roster flipped. So,
yep, I agree. Hey, we'll wrap it up with a topic I know you love, near and dear to your heart. Some gaff as we get out of here. Tim Watts, Dr. Dr. Back here in the Roundtable Mailbag. Do you have any information on Gordon Sargent's decision to attend Vanderbilt rather than Alabama? Back, I checked on this, found a Golf Digest interview. Gordon Sargent, by the way, the #1 ranked college player on the men's side, top amateur from the Birmingham area, elected to attend Vanderbilt rather than Alabama. J.C. Well, of course, a great program in Tuscaloosa. But Scott Limbaugh, the head coach at Vanderbilt at one time, and an Alabama native, by the way, was the top assistant for Jay at Alabama. So he had probably made some inroads with some golfers, I'm sure, and some families. But what I uncovered via the Golf Digest interview with Gordon Sargent, who, by the way, staying in school. He had a PGA Tour card ready to go right now, but he is going to return to Vanderbilt for another year, was that he wanted to get a little further away from home. And Nashville's 3 hours versus, say, an hour. He wanted to have more of that buffer. And again, Scott Limbaugh, Vanderbilt's program's damn good. So, it's not like he took a step back in that regard. But there you go, Tim. I know you were
why don't they just go pro if they're that good?
Well, that's what Nick Dunlap did. The Alabama.
Why would you go to if you're
after he
that.
won the tournament, just 20 years old. But, maybe Gordon Sargent talked to Nick Dunlap, and this is all speculation on my behalf. And Nick's been on the PGA Tour for a few months now after he won out in Southern California and um, got his 2-year exemption for that and turned pro, went pro, left Alabama. You know, um, you never know the type of feedback guys get. And look, Gordon Sargent, I'm going to guess, probably doesn't need to be pro. And that's just my guess
So are
from a
there golf
financial
fans?
perspective.
So they're
You know,
golf fans sitting on the edge of their seat wondering
yes,
if they're going pro,
it's
and
yeah,
are they saying stuff like they got the PGA feedback like we do the NFL and
yeah.
NBA? Is that
Well,
happening?
the thing is, like, the thing
Wow,
that
I
makes
had no idea.
Sargent's case unique, and I'm sure he's probably heard from Live Golf because now there's the PGA Tour and Live, so he's probably got opportunities beyond even the PGA Tour. But he has his status if he wants it on the PGA Tour pretty much right now, and he's electing to stay at Vanderbilt for another school. He says he likes college. It's kind of like Peyton Manning, and Peyton is an example too. Peyton financially could have stayed in college for 20 years, right? If he really wanted to. And that's probably the situation I'm going to guess with Gordon Sargent
We're not
as well.
ending
Good
on
for him
that.
though.
We're not ending
Do
on
it.
golf. We're not ending
We're
on
not
golf.
in. Oh,
We're not. Who do you have in the NBA Finals? They start tonight. We had to wait. I was watching games at 4 in the morning in Spain. I was
I'm
waking up.
going. I'm going Dallas. I'm going
I'm
Kyrie and
going
Luca.
Dallas
You're
because
not getting me
I
to go
think it's a
against those
great.
two guys.
I think it's a great story. I think the Celtics are the better team as far as on paper. They did not have the road that the Mavs had. The
I
Mavs had
don't
to
think
beat
they got the killers though, like Kyrie and Luca.
if the
Those guys are
Celtics.
killers.
There's a lot of pressure on the Celtics. If they don't win, do you blow it up? I mean, this is a lot of, this is the year they walked through the East. They walked through the playoffs, but a lot of the, Halliburton was out, Jimmy Butler was out, Donovan
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell missed some games. Not all the games, they missed some games. They didn't have a lot of impressive wins. Even in some of those games where those players were out, they struggled. But then again, it's still the emotional, trying to get there. You just have to wonder if they don't win it this year because they've already made small changes. They got rid of Marcus Smart. The best thing I think the Celtics did, I say this on the message board all the time, is they went and got Drew Holiday, who I think is a championship player, new and playing AAU basketball. I think he is a glue guy. I think he's a locker room guy. He's a lunch pail guy, terrific defender, could be your leading scorer if he wanted to. I think that helps. But I agree, when Kyrie found his Quan, every team that had a chance at him when he didn't have his Quan's pissed because
Well,
that
the
guy's a different
Lakers.
animal right
Yeah.
now.
I
Yeah, he's
mean,
not the same guy he was with the Celtics or the Nets or any of that. He
he
is
seems to be
happy.
about that business right now.
He's just his interviews. I mean, he found whatever inner peace he was searching for. And
Yeah.
Luke is an absolute mass murderer. He's a killer. He is an NBA kid. And it's not just that he's good. I mean, he is now telling you, the sound bites that goes with the confidence.
Yeah, it's there, no doubt. And before we go, Z Franks 94, just to reiterate, Tim, we talked about this earlier in relation to Danny Hurley potentially moving on. And again, for Woj to go there like he did overnight, that tells me all I need to know, not just because it's Woj, but because Woj has a deep
Yeah.
history with the Hurley family going
Yeah,
back
you got to
to
think
Big
it's
Bob.
done.
That makes you think this thing, Woj wouldn't be even going where he went with it if he didn't feel really confident that the end game of this was Hurley in LA. But the chances of Oats, I'm sure Yukon would be interested in Nate Oats, Tim.
Yeah,
But would it be reciprocal?
yeah, I still think that's the biggest thing with Nate Oates. I find it hard to believe any school's not interested with an opening. If there's a
Well,
college opening,
The Lakers should have been interested in Nate Oats too,
yeah. So
in
I,
my
I think
opinion.
I think Nate Oates made it clear, and I think he's the kind of guy. He made promises, to people. He made um, promise. The effort he put. First of all, he'd be a damn fool to leave the roster he put together. Just straight up, he put together the
Well,
exact
think about
roster.
Yukon's roster if Hurley leaves now with that 30-day window, right?
Yeah, that's big. I mean, all that factors in. But Nate was Richie Rich this year, picking out his Christmas presents, shopping. He went shopping and got everything he wanted. Including Mark Sears back. Well, we said whether Mark or Jaron came back, this is still a top 3 roster.
Mhm.
Still could be a number 1 team. Them coming back just basically cemented it. So you don't do all that, get everything you want, get that team to like you've got it, because he thinks, and then look, he's not been bashful. He's the opposite of
National
Wimp.
championship or bust.
I mean, Wimp's probably like, oh, Wimp's probably
Sabin.
eyes roll. He hears that, because
Yeah.
Wimp was up 30 at halftime saying we could lose this. Nate's like, we're coming. So I don't think Nate Oats would leave for Yukon. I mean, I have nothing other than everything that he's did in the past. But I don't think he would. I think he's got the college job he wants. But if I'm Yukon, I'm definitely
Agreed.
interested.
Mission accomplished. We didn't finish on golf. Although I was going to ask you too about
Don't
the
cheat.
perfect taco. What goes
Yes.
on the perfect taco? We want to save that one or what?
No, let's do perfect taco. If they're still here at this point of the live show,
They will
they're
love to hear about the
they're
perfect taco.
expecting shoe
Because I think I had
recommendations,
it
movie
last night.
recommendation.
No, see, here's Tex Tider. Miss Taco Talk. We're gonna do it right now, Tex.
We're just starting it, Tex. You just came
Yeah.
in for the
And
perfect
now
tacos.
look at the response, man. We
That's
should
what
have
I'm
led.
saying.
We
Now
should have
we're
let off with the damn
I'm
taco.
we're no, because now we're finding out who's the real riders. The ride or die guys, the riders are here. Let's go, people.
Posse up.
I would say I like that hard shell flour tortilla, the yellow one.
Okay, you like crunchy. Yeah.
Yeah, I like crunchy. I mean, it varies, but if I was just picking one, and by the way, in Barcelona, we had a place called Al Tacos Pastor. Dude, it was, I'll
Pastor.
send you a
Yeah.
picture. It was absolutely the
Street
best meal.
tacos.
It was, yeah, it was
Okay.
in a
It's
restaurant, but
gotta
yeah, it
be
was that, but it was
okay.
as good as any meals we had, including the sushi, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was like, we all had 4 tacos. So that's 24. We had 20 tacos, a quesadilla, 6 drinks, and it was like $43. $43 for
Yeah.
that. But I'd go beef, a little of
Ground beef. You like the ground
yes. I
beef or
like
the
beef. I
steak?
always go beef with just one taco. Steak's a hit and miss bag. I'm just not sure it's always steak when I get steak.
If you
Some of
get
that's
it, to
bubble
me, it's
gum.
got to be cooked right, and if it's going to be like a flank, it's got to be
Yeah,
really
some of
cooked
it's
right, or
bubble
it,
gum.
it it can be chewy and
What is
not
this
good.
stuff called where you get you got the chopped up onions, tomato?
Oh,
That's not queso. What's it
pico de
called?
gallo.
Yeah, I like that on it.
Yeah, me too.
Queso would be good. I like the cheesy part of it, and I'm good to go. Taco Bell sauce is always a must.
Taco Bell sauce. All right.
I do that on
You
anything.
know, we had some last night. We were able to get some fresh grouper, and then Heather blackened it in a black iron skillet, cast
Oh,
iron skillet. Oh my gosh, that was. She did some fresh stuff to go on it, like an Asian slaw, and then like a corn salad on top of that. And then for me with the fish tacos, I'm with you. Like if it's beef or something else, I'm good with the crunchy shell. But fish tacos have to be in that tortilla, and you got to toast them just a little bit in the pan, give them a little bit of texture. But you still want them soft. Yeah, I like a good fish taco. That's the
yeah.
perfect taco for
No,
me.
that's good. Yeah, good shrimp taco. Although
Shrimp
again,
taco.
it depends on how they cook it. Sometimes it's too soft.
Yeah,
Blackened shrimp would be good.
yeah. And
You
you
know
got
what's a
to
good? You know what's a
season that
good?
shrimp. Yeah,
You know what's a really good tacos? Alligator bites.
really.
They have
So
those at Walk.
alligator nuggets on there,
Yeah,
strips.
they have them at
I don't
Walk-Ons and
mind
one of the
gator. I mean,
places.
it's pretty mild, you know.
It's good on a taco, and they have a sauce. They have it at Walk-Ons. They got a Walk-Ons in Hoover. First one we ate at was in New Orleans. Used to eat after the Pelicans game.
How does walk-ons not have chicken wings? I haven't figured that out yet. But
You're right,
hey,
they don't. It's kind of a
whatever they're
Creole.
doing works for them. But I
It's
don't know
kind
how
of a
you don't have
Creole.
chicken wings.
It's kind of a Creole place. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. Tex
All
Tider
right.
is he's wanting us to show his taco pick from the roundtable mailbag,
I don't
but
know how to.
we don't have it here on the show. But if you go to the roundtable mailbag right now, that thread, you can see Tex Tider's very authentic taco pick while he's playing golf and drinking
Got his feet
margs.
up.
Yeah.
Tex, I feel like
Yeah.
you're not a safe driver.
Yeah. I
I
think
saw
Tex is,
alcohol, food, feet up.
he probably had a Uber driver for the golf cart down there,
I'm worried about Tex.
Yeah.
He did not look like he was
Tex likes
focused.
to show off that BOL hat he won too in that avatar. You
I
see
don't
that?
blame
He
him.
keeps that thing right up there. It's like his,
I keep waiting for the
it's like the green
auction.
jacket. That's like the Masters green jacket for a BOL subscriber right there.
I keep waiting for him to have the auction.
Yeah, I'm
Pay
ready.
off his house.
Hey, again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel here for BamaOnLine.com. We greatly appreciate it. Hit the like button if you don't mind. Turn on those notifications. You'll get all of our BOL content as it drops on the YouTube home for the website. And of course, you want to be with us right there at Bama Online, the roundtable, our premium message board. That's where you're going to get all these nuggets, all this extra stuff from Tim Watts and Andrew Bone and Joseph Hastings, Charlie Potter. It's endless really right now as I get there. I did get a picture of the man. Those are a real deal, Tim.
Dude, it's for
You
real.
just texted me those. That was $43 for all that.
That's not even all of it. There's 2 drinks missing, and
Oh.
there's you
Hold
see
on,
my
maybe I
daughter
can-
in the back's kicking down her quesadilla.
Hold on,
I just showed 4
there it
different.
is. How about that for production value? Is
Mhm.
that something else? Is that
I
is that
knew
pro or what? That's pro right there.
I knew it was good when we walked up and there was a line and they'd been open for like 7 minutes.
All of that and more for $43. I got to get to Spain real quick.
Now that
Yeah.
might have been it might have been euros, but it might have been 36 euros and 43 American dollars. Tex 2 hands.
Yeah.
10 and 2 on that thing.
10 and 2 on that golf cart, man.
10 and 2.
Absolutely. Hey, we're here.
All right, tomorrow.
10 to 2
Don't forget us.
most
Live
days.
show. Andrew Bone.
Recruiting show kicking off a big official visit weekend at the University of Alabama. Tim Watts, Andrew Bone, yours truly right here back on the YouTube channel for BOL. Until then, be sure to post up at BamaOnline.com. Tim, a lot of fun as always, and we'll be connecting again here real soon.
Absolutely. You never know.
You just never know.
You never know.
You never know when
Travis
at a
is pulled
Panera
over to Panera
or a KFC.
Little Books a Million.
Or
Starbucks.
You never know when it might be bow time.
Starbucks.
Here on
We
the
can't
show.
afford an office, so we just hit the local Starbucks. We just hit Travis's office is a moving beverage seller.
I at least buy something when I go in there, though. Some of these cats, they just they just thieve that stream. All right, Tim, we'll do it again tomorrow, or you never know. Like you said, who knows when we might be back? But look forward to it nonetheless. Thanks, Tim.
All right, guys. See ya.
For Tim Watts, Travis Reier, thanking you for joining us right here on the YouTube home for BOL. Until next time, so long, everybody.